What I love about the Big Finish Unbound range is that we can go to new places, we can have new villains, we can explore alternate scenarios. So, yeah, of course we're going to go back to Marinus with the Daleks. Yeah. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. TARDIS, and we're here for another Doctor Who Big Finish review, the second instalment in the first Doctor Unbound range. And for those of you who don't know, the Unbound range was basically Big Finish's what if scenario spin off, and this was rebooted last year with Knights of the Round TARDIS, starring the alternate First Doctor played by David Bradley, and the Season 1 TARDIS team played by the actors from An Adventure in Space and Time. We have Jamie Glover as Ian, Claudia Grant as Susan, and Gemma Powell as Barbara. And if you remember my review last year of Knights of the Round TARDIS, you'll know that I wasn't really a big fan of it. I don't think it was a particularly interesting story, but the main conceit of Knights of the Round TARDIS is that the First Doctor Season 1 team have met the meddling monk way earlier than they were meant to in the TV series, and that has essentially splintered the timeline, so we can have the First Doctor adventures with William Hartnell, and then here in Unbound with David Bradley, it branches off. And the first branch of the Unbound adventures takes the First Doctor and co. to Marinus as a sequel to The Keys of Marinus from Season 1. And as you can see from the cover, the Daleks have taken over Marinus. Return to Marinus, written by Jonathan Morris, takes place 100 years after the events of The Keys of Marinus, where the First Doctor, Ian, Barbara, and Susan were able to destroy the consciousness machine and defeat the villainous Vord by picking up the titular keys of Marinus and returning them to Machine, and then freeing all of the people subjugated from Marinus. And what's happened now, 100 years later, is that the tales of that original adventure have become the stuff of legend. The story opens with the First Doctor, Ian, Barbara, and Susan going to a play where it's a dramatic reenactment of the adventure played by dashing actors. However, they soon realise that something is wrong with the population of Marinus. They are very subdued. In fact, they think that somebody has turned the machine back on and is now subjugating the population, and it turns out that it's the Daleks. The First Doctor and Ian are sent away to a labour camp, whereas Susan and Barbara team up with the now reformed Vord to try and bring down the Daleks from within.
Before you scurry away, young lady, I wish to give you a piece of my mind.
I'm sorry?
About that travesty you made us sit through tonight. That appalling, ridiculous pantomime.
I'm sorry. I thought you enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it? I have never been so insulted.
Doctor, it's hardly her fault.
Of course it's her fault. I hold her personally responsible. You made us all look like fools. So, what do you have to say for yourself, young lady?
I can only apologize and ask for your forgiveness. It was not my intention to cause you any offense. Good night.
Yes, be off with you. Good night.
Doctor? What was all that in aid of?
A test.
A test?
And I'm afraid it confirms my worst suspicions.
What suspicions? Why did you have to be so rude to her?
I was trying to elicit an emotional response. Anger, annoyance, but instead, nothing.
Yes, I think she did very well to keep her temper.
Did she? Or was something else keeping it for her?
First things first, if you have not watched The Keys of Marinus, you are going to be completely lost here, because Return to Marinus is essentially a retread of the Keys of Marinus greatest hits, just in a much more truncated runtime, where we essentially reunite with many of the key players and key characters and key species from the Keys of Marinus, but 100 years later. So if you don't know what Morpheton is, if you don't know about the ice caves, and if you don't know about the Vord, then so much of this story is going to be completely lost on you. However, if you are somebody who for the past 60 years has been demanding a sequel to The Keys of Marinus, then you know what? Return to Marinus will meet your oddly specific requirements and is a pretty fun time. It almost feels like a Peter Cushing Doctor Who and the Daleks type of theatrical adventure, in that it's really well paced, it's action packed, It gives us a lot of really fun material for all of the main cast to do, which is already an improvement on Knights of the Round TARDIS, where so many of the characters felt really out of character, particularly Susan. I also really like the through line of the actors who play their on-stage incarnations in the play when they first visit Marinus, and they basically watch a fun reenactment of the story. It seems like a fun meta commentary on missing stories, or how these legends can be readapted and reperceived a century later. I thought it was really fun, and I think the play is a fun meta commentary on potential lost stories, which the Keys of Marinus could have been. It could have been one of the lost and junked stories from the 60s, whilst also alluding to the new nature of the parallel unbound timeline that Big Finish are going with here. And you have Raidus, played by Timothy Blore, who plays Ian in the stage version and becomes a key ally in the story. And a fun wrinkle in the story is that everybody's mind is being subdued by the machine Marinus. However, the actors in the stage play are able to wear these discs, which allow them to feel these emotions to give more authentic performances in the play. And I think that's a really fun piece of subtext on how it's the artists and the creatives who are able to fight back, with the Daleks having arrived 10 years previously, and they've activated the conscience machine again, and they're trying to build these radio broadcasting towers to boost its signal across the planet. One thing that slightly threw me off, and this is absolutely my issue, I'll cop to it, was that it was my understanding in the Keys of Marinus, that original Terry Nation story in the 1960s, that they were going to different worlds. They were transported to different planets to pick up these keys. But no, apparently everything that takes place in that story, Keys of Marinus, was on the planet Marinus. Was that established on screen? Did I just completely miss that? But like I said, that's my subjective issue, if you can call it that, issue in quotes. I was just a little bit confused as to why all of this was happening on Marinus. I thought this was off-world, but no, that's my issue. I think the cast overall are really, really good. I think David Bradley brought a really great energy to the role. I think he's really thriving as this alternate First Doctor. Derek Elroy plays the new leader of the Vord, and while I think the Vord, I could take them or leave them just generally as a species, I just don't think they're that interesting, despite Big Finish really trying hard to make them happen in the past year. But I thought Derek Elroy was really good in the story, and the Daleks themselves in this story were really entertaining. Like I said, like Peter Cushing Dalek movie territory, in terms of like entertainment and subversions and fun that they can have with the Pepper Pots. The third act twist with the Daleks in this story was really bonkers, and I really enjoyed the big swings that they took with the Daleks in this story. I actually thought it was a really unique thing to do with the Daleks, and the fact that this species, this villain, has been in the pop culture for over 60 years, and we're still finding fun subversions and fun things to do with the Daleks, that's a real testament to not only the Daleks in terms of their malleability as a villain, but also Jonathan Morris's ability to write that subversion in the story. I think that Jonathan Morris is a really fun, fan-pleasing writer, and he clearly loves the Keys of Marinus, and that reflects in Return to Marinus. I think he's clearly having a lot of fun here. One thing that slightly confused me in Return to Marinus, though, is that the Doctor and the companions treat this as their second meeting with the Daleks. So is the First Doctor Adventures Volume 4, where they return to Skaro and meet the Daleks again, does that not count? Is that not canon? Like, fair enough if it's not, but in Knights of the Round TARDIS, we know that Volume 1 is canon, because they talk about meeting the Master, which happened in that box set. So, I don't know, just get the continuity straight. Like I said, if you haven't watched Keys of Marinus, it's really hard to recommend this story, but I did enjoy it a lot, and I do think it's a big step up from Knights of the Round TARDIS. And the cliffhanger ending of Return to Marinus, which is going to lead into the third installment of the First Doctor Unbound, which on the website is currently untitled, but in the behind-the-scenes interviews, they reveal the writer and the title, and that it sounds really exciting. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to what happens in the next installment. It's set to be a really epic story by the sounds of it. In terms of recommendations, it's really simple. If you've watched and like Keys of Marinus, you should listen to Return to Marinus. If you haven't watched it, and if you don't like the story, It's probably a safe skip, but I did find it entertaining. I did enjoy it. This did feel like the third Peter Cushing Dalek movie that we never got in the 60s. And I am really looking forward to the third installment, which is set to follow Return to Marinus, which comes out in May 2027. We gotta wait like over a year? Okay. But if this range sounds interesting to you, I think you can just skip Knights of the Round TARDIS, just jump straight into Return to Marinus. All the context you need is that the Doctor and friends met the monk, time's gone wibbly, and then this can just be a good jumping on point, in my opinion. But yeah, that was my review of the First Doctor Unbound Return to Marinus. Really fun time. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe, hit the like button, all that good stuff if you want to watch more Big Finish reviews. And folks, I'll see you all next time.